This is the untold story of a man who rose against all odds, fought everyone who dared to step in front of him, and carved his name into boxing history. This is Terence Crawford's journey. To understand the greatness of Terence Crawford, you first have to understand where he came from.
That's where it all started at.
Because greatness isn't born overnight. It's forged in struggle, sharpened by hardship, and tested in fire.
Me going in the street, putting on the gloves, me fighting in the alleys.
And for Crawford, that fire started burning long before he ever laced up a pair of gloves. Terence Allen Crawford was born on September 28, 1987 in Omaha, Nebraska, a city not exactly known for producing world-class boxers. If you asked fight fans back then about Omaha, boxing was the last thing that came to mind.
When I first started boxing, I just could fight. I couldn't box.
I remember he came out with his hands balled up. The son I wanted.
But inside that environment, one filled with temptations, dangers, and dead ends, young Terence found something that would change his life forever.
He ain't scared of nothing, he can fight.
Omaha wasn't easy. Violence was part of the landscape. Street fights weren't uncommon. And Crawford? He was in the middle of it. He wasn't the type to back down. If someone challenged him, he answered. Sometimes with his fists, sometimes just with his presence. That fighting spirit wasn't something he learned later. It was built into his DNA.
My dad used to tell my mom I was going to be a world champ.
I told him he wouldn't be
Crawford's introduction to boxing came when he was just 7 years old. His father introduced him to the sport, but it wasn't love at first sight. Terence was just another kid stepping into a gym, curious, restless, looking for something to do.
Little leg movement too. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That's that T I'm looking for. There we go.
But once he started hitting the heavy bag, once he felt that adrenaline rush of sparring, something clicked. The ring gave him discipline. It gave him purpose. Still, it wasn't smooth sailing. Crawford was wild. He had a temper. Coaches often had to pull him aside and tell him to calm down. But even in those early days, one thing stood out. His natural ability to switch stances. Left-handed, right-handed, it didn't matter. He could punch with both hands, confuse opponents, and fight like two boxers in one. The gift was rare, and everyone in the gym knew it. But here's the truth about Crawford's teenage years. Boxing wasn't the only thing in his life. He was talented, yes, but he was also reckless. Growing up in a tough neighborhood meant you were either the predator or the prey.
Here it was hard. Yep.
And Crawford wasn't about to be prey. He fought in the streets. He argued with teachers. He didn't always follow the rules.
Well, I was always getting in trouble, so I was always getting a whooping for something. So at a point in time, it just became numb to me.
And that same fire that made him dangerous inside the ring made him a target outside of it. One night, that recklessness nearly cost him everything. After a heated argument, Crawford was shot in the head while sitting in a car. The bullet grazed him, leaving him bloody, shocked, but somehow alive.
They told me he was lucky because I guess the bullet went in and bounced off or something.
For many, that would have been the end. For Crawford, it was the beginning. He realized he was living on borrowed time.
Like, Letitia, your brother just did. He laughing. I got the tooth. I'm like.
And if he didn't commit to boxing fully, he might never make it out alive. Surviving that gunshot was the wake-up call. Crawford doubled down on boxing. No more distractions. No more wasted time. He started living in the gym, training relentlessly, outworking anyone around him. His coaches saw the change. He wasn't just a kid with talent anymore. He was becoming a fighter with discipline, focus, and a dream. He started winning amateur fights. He collected trophies. But more importantly, he developed his unique style, that unpredictable switch hitting, combined with patience, timing, a predator who waited, studied, and then struck when the time was right. Crawford's amateur career wasn't flashy. He wasn't the golden boy of Team USA. He didn't go to the Olympics. He didn't get the kind of attention that stars like Floyd Mayweather or Oscar de la Hoya got early in their careers. Instead, Crawford had to grind in the shadows. He fought in small tournaments, often overlooked, often underestimated. But fight after fight, he sharpened his tools. He built resilience, and he learned how to win no matter the circumstances. In the amateurs, Crawford fought names that would later become notable professionals. He didn't always win, but every loss became a lesson. By the late 2000s, Crawford knew what he wanted. He wanted to be a world champion. But he also knew the road wouldn't be easy. He didn't have the backing of major promoters. He didn't have big money sponsors. He had to fight for every opportunity. And in a sport where politics often matter more than talent, Crawford's journey was going to be uphill. Still, if you asked him back then, he'd tell you none of that mattered. Because he knew something most didn't. He knew that the quiet kid from Omaha, the one nobody believed in, was about to shake the entire boxing world.
I hope that wobbles. Some Spence might be going down again, and this one is over.
From a near-death experience to finding purpose inside the ring, Terence Crawford's early life was a storm of chaos and determination. But if you think this was the hard part, wait until you see what happens when he steps into the professional world. A world that didn't welcome him with open arms, but one he would eventually conquer. For most boxing stars, the path to greatness begins with glittering amateur careers. Olympic medals, international fame, the spotlight shining before they ever go pro. But for Terence Crawford, that wasn't the story. His amateur career was tough, unpolished, and far from glamorous. He wasn't the chosen one, wasn't the kid that promoters lined up to sign. He was a fighter grinding in the shadows, sharpening his tools against anyone, anywhere, just to stay alive in the sport. By the time Crawford entered the amateur scene, he was already seasoned in ways most kids weren't. Street fights had hardened him. Surviving a bullet to the head had given him perspective. But in the amateurs, toughness wasn't enough. He had to refine his craft, learn how to win in different ways, and prove himself against the best young boxers in the country. Crawford fought in countless small tournaments, often traveling without much money, sometimes even without a full corner team. He faced fighters who had better connections, more resources, and more recognition. And yet, time and time again, he found ways to win. What made him different wasn't just raw talent. It was adaptability.
Terence Crawford is to boxing.
He wasn't stuck in one style. He could come forward aggressively or fight off the back foot. He could switch stances mid-round and completely change the flow of a fight. Opponents struggled to figure him out. Even in those early years, Crawford showed brilliance that hinted at what was to come. He wasn't the fastest puncher. He didn't always throw the hardest shots. But he had something far more valuable: timing and IQ. Every sparring session, every amateur bout, he studied his opponents. He didn't just fight them, he decoded them. He waited, he observed, and then he dismantled. And then there was the switch hitting. Orthodox to southpaw, southpaw back to orthodox. Most fighters who tried it looked sloppy, predictable, or forced. Crawford made it look natural. He was ambidextrous in his violence, capable of knocking you out with either hand. By the time word spread in amateur circles about the kid from Omaha, who could fight like two men in one, people started to take notice. He wasn't a national star, but inside the gyms, his name carried respect. While other American boxers prepared for Olympic qualifiers, Crawford's path looked different. He wasn't chosen to represent the U.S. at the highest level. He didn't get the press, he didn't have the big stage, and that hurt. For many fighters, Olympic exposure is the golden ticket to a lucrative professional career. It opens doors to promoters and sponsors. Without it, most fighters fade away into obscurity, but Crawford refused to fade. Instead, he carried that chip on his shoulder, determined to prove that even without the spotlight, he could fight his way to the top. He wasn't fighting for attention. He was fighting for survival. By 2008, Crawford had a decision to make. He had fought more than 70 amateur bouts. He had proven himself against quality opposition, but the Olympic door was closed. The system hadn't chosen him, so he chose himself.
Everybody get to see a little taste of what they're going to get in the future.
That year he turned professional. But unlike Olympic medalists who signed million-dollar deals right out of the gate, Crawford's entry into the pro ranks was quiet, almost invisible. He made his debut on March 14, 2008, in a small venue against Brian Cummings. The fight didn't last long. Crawford ended it with a first-round knockout. A statement, but one that barely anyone heard. There were no TV cameras, no big headlines, just a young man from Omaha earning a few $100s, starting a journey that he knew would be long and brutal.
Terence Crawford.
Crawford's early pro career was not glamorous. Small venues, small purses, and little recognition. He fought on undercards where no one remembered his name. He fought opponents that were brought in just to fill space. But behind those quiet nights, something important was happening. Crawford was building experience. He was learning how to carry his style into the professional ranks. He was learning patience, pacing, and the brutal truth of boxing's business side. He had no guarantees, no big promoter backing him at first. If he lost, the sport would have spit him out and forgotten him. But Crawford wasn't planning to lose. Fight after fight, he kept winning.
One of the best finishers in boxing.
By 2010, he was quietly building an undefeated record. Still, the boxing world barely noticed. He wasn't headlining shows. He wasn't in the spotlight. He was the quiet storm, a dangerous fighter hiding in plain sight. And that suited him just fine. While others chased attention, Crawford chased improvement. He studied tape obsessively. He sparred with bigger names whenever he got the chance.
With the GOAT, one of the GOATs.
He turned every opportunity, no matter how small, into a stepping stone. But soon, the world would no longer be able to ignore him, because the quiet kid from Omaha was climbing. And the higher he climbed, the more dangerous he became.
I'm looking for it. There we go. There we go. Good work. Good work.
Every great fighter has that moment. That turning point when the world finally stops, looks, and says, "This guy is different."
One of the best finishers in boxing.
For Terence Crawford, those moments didn't come easy. They were earned through years of grinding in the dark, waiting for a chance, and then snatching it with both hands when opportunity finally knocked. By 2013, Crawford had built a quiet record of wins. 19 victories, no losses. But still, outside of Omaha, few knew his name. He was stuck in the boxing purgatory where dangerous fighters often rot. Too skilled for prospects. Too unknown for champions.
But just Buzz work ethic.
But fate has a funny way of testing those who are patient. That year, Crawford got a late call to step in against Breidis Prescott, a fighter famous for knocking out Amir Khan in just one round. Prescott was dangerous, heavy-handed, and experienced. Crawford was the replacement opponent, expected to show up, fight hard, and lose respectably. Instead, Crawford turned it into his coming-out party. For 10 rounds, he showcased his switch-hitting skills, his composure, his IQ. He neutralized Prescott, frustrated him, and walked away with a unanimous decision win. That night, boxing insiders started whispering, "Who is this kid from Omaha?" The Prescott win cracked the door open, but the real breakthrough came in 2014. World champion Ricky Burns was looking for a defense in Scotland. Most fighters dreaded fighting a champion in his own backyard, in front of a hostile crowd, with judges often swayed by the atmosphere. Crawford? He didn't care. He flew to Glasgow as the underdog. No home crowd, no advantages. Just himself, his skills, and the determination to seize what he'd been chasing since childhood. From the opening bell, Crawford was in control. Switching stances, countering with precision, landing clean shots. He silenced the Scottish crowd and dominated Burns, winning the WBO lightweight title. That victory changed everything. Terence Crawford was no longer a hidden danger. He was a world champion. Winning the belt made Crawford a champion. But defeating Yuriorkis Gamboa made him a star. In June 2014, Omaha came alive. For the first time in years, the city hosted a major world title fight, and the hometown kid was at the center of it all. Gamboa was a former Olympic gold medalist, fast, explosive, and heavily hyped. Many thought he'd be too much for Crawford. After Gamboa, Crawford's confidence skyrocketed.
And I'm a living testimony to that.
He defended his lightweight title again later that year against Ray Beltran, another tough fighter, and won convincingly. His ability to adapt, switch styles, and dominate opponents from every angle made him look like a puzzle no one could solve. But for Crawford, staying comfortable wasn't an option. He wanted bigger challenges. He wanted to climb higher. So he set his sights on the 140-pound division. Moving up in weight is never easy. Fighters often lose their power or speed, but Crawford proved different. At 140 pounds, he looked sharper, faster, stronger. His first major test came against Thomas Delorme in 2015 for the WBO junior welterweight title. For a few rounds, it was competitive. Then Crawford unleashed his offense, knocking Delorme out in the sixth.
The only one that matters so far.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Another belt, another division conquered.
Crawford, it's pretty clear through those first 5 rounds, Crawford studied up and now knows every single thing he has to do.
From there, he defended his title with dominance. Diary Gene. Crawford wasn't just winning. He was dismantling opponents in a way that left no questions. The true test at 140 came in 2016 against Victor Postol, the undefeated WBC champion who had just knocked out Lucas Matthysse. Many believe Postol's size, jab, and discipline would trouble Crawford. What happened instead was a masterclass. Crawford boxed beautifully, using his movement, timing, and counterpunching to neutralize Postol completely. He scored 2 knockdowns and won a wide unanimous decision.
Counter punch. He touches the canvas again. Yep. That's another knockdown.
That night, Crawford became the unified WBO and WBC champion. More importantly, he showed he could dominate another undefeated world champion with ease. By the end of 2016, Terence Crawford was no longer the overlooked fighter from Omaha. He was an elite name in boxing, a pound-for-pound contender. What made him special wasn't just the belts. It was the way he won, calmly, intelligently, and ruthlessly. He wasn't flashy outside the ring. He didn't trash talk. But inside the ropes, he was a nightmare. Opponents couldn't figure him out. Trainers couldn't come up with game plans that worked. He was proving, fight after fight, that he wasn't just another champion. He was something more. From a replacement opponent against Breedis Prescott, to dethroning Ricky Burns in Scotland, to stopping Yuriorkis Gamboa in front of his hometown fans, Crawford's rise to stardom was built on seizing opportunities that others feared. He didn't just take chances. He transformed them into stepping stones toward greatness. But as dominant as he was at lightweight and junior welterweight, there was still another level to climb. The welterweight division, the glamour division of boxing, stacked with stars and legends. The lightweight division had been conquered. The junior welterweight division unified.
Champion of the world.
By 2017, Terence Crawford had nothing left to prove at the lower weights. He had shown he could adapt, dominate, and dismantle anyone put in front of him. But for fighters chasing greatness, the climb never stops. The next challenge was clear: the welterweight division, boxing's glamour weight class. The land of legends like Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Floyd Mayweather, and Manny Pacquiao. If you wanted to cement your name among the greats, you had to shine at 147 pounds, and that's exactly where Crawford was headed. Crawford's first fight at welterweight came in June 2018 against Jeff Horn, the rugged Australian who had upset Manny Pacquiao the year before. Horn was big, physical, and relentless, the kind of fighter meant to test whether Crawford could handle the new weight. From the opening bell, the difference was clear. Crawford looked sharp, fast, and stronger than ever. Horn tried to bully him, to rough him up, but Crawford wasn't having it. He picked him apart with precision, landing counters at will. By the 9th round, Horn had taken enough punishment, and the referee stopped the fight. Terence Crawford was now the WBO welterweight champion, his third weight class, another division conquered. After taking the belt from Horn, Crawford set out to prove he wasn't just holding it, he was defending it with dominance. In October 2018, he faced Jose Benavidez Jr. The fight carried personal tension, with both men exchanging heated words before the bout. Next came Amir Khan in April 2019. Khan was fast,
dazzling attack from Amir Khan,
experienced,
good right hand,
and a former champion, and highlighted Crawford's ability to dominate top names. Later that year, Crawford faced Egidijus Mean Machine Kavaliauskas. 2020, critics began asking the same question. Who has Crawford really beaten at welterweight? The big names, Errol Spence Jr., Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, were all tied up with different promoters and networks. Crawford, fighting under Top Rank, struggled to land the mega fights, but when opportunities came, he took them. In November 2020, he fought Kell Brook, the former IBF champion who had shared the ring with both Gennady Golovkin and Errol Spence Jr. The true proving ground came in November 2021 against Sean Porter. Porter was a two-time world champion, known for his relentless pressure, toughness, and ability to make elite fighters uncomfortable. If Crawford was ever going to be tested at welterweight, it was against Porter.
Watch Terence focus in and finish off opponents. He cares about this challenge and the legacy. Can Porter pull it off, or will this be Crawford's statement night? We find out.
That victory silenced many critics. He wasn't just beating champions, he was finishing them. After the Porter fight, the world demanded one matchup: Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr.
The opportunity for Errol.
Two undefeated champions. Two pound-for-pound stars. The fight to decide the king of the welterweight division. For years, promotional barriers and negotiations kept the fight from happening. But Crawford never stopped pushing. He knew his legacy demanded it. He knew that beating Spence would erase every doubt, every critique,
Terrence, I'm coming for that bill,
and cement him as the best in the world. From Jeff Horn to Sean Porter, Crawford's run at welterweight was defined by dominance. He didn't just win, he dismantled, adapted, and finished fights in ways that left no questions. But all of those victories, all of those title defenses, were leading to one moment. The fight that fans had waited years to see. The clash with Errol Spence Jr.
Everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
I do believe this is the perfect time. You got two great fighters in their prime for all the marbles. It's going to be an exciting fight, and I just can't wait for it to happen.
By 2022, Terence "Bud" Crawford had done everything except one thing: defeat Errol Spence Jr. Fans had been demanding the fight for years. Two undefeated champions at the peak of their powers. Two welterweights widely considered among the top pound-for-pound fighters in the sport.
Y'all know what time it is. Stretch season. It's truth time. Bring the hot sauce too.
We're going to have a fish fry come Saturday.
Y'all know I get active. Let's go.
This wasn't just another fight. This was for supremacy.
I am one of the greatest welterweights that ever lace up a pair of gloves.
For the throne. For boxing history. For years, negotiations dragged. Promoters pointed fingers. Networks refused to cooperate. Fans grew frustrated, wondering if they'd ever see it. Crawford, soft-spoken but quietly determined, never stopped pushing. "This is the fight I want," he repeated. And finally, in July 2023, it happened. The contracts were signed. The arena was set. Crawford versus Spence. For the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. The anticipation was electric. Spence came in with the IBF, WBA, and WCB titles. Crawford carried the WBO. The winner would be the first undisputed welterweight champion of the four-belt era. Analysts were divided. Spence, the natural welterweight, was bigger, stronger, and had beaten names like Kell Brook, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and Yordenis Ugas. Crawford, though brilliant, had faced criticism for not having the same resume at 147. Many wondered if Spence's size and pressure would overwhelm him. But Crawford had heard it all before. Every doubt, every critique. And as fight night approached, he looked calm, even icy. He knew something the world didn't. On July 29, 2023, in Las Vegas, history was about to be written. The lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and two of boxing's very best entered the ring. The opening bell rang. Spence came forward, as expected, behind his jab. Crawford stayed patient, switching stances, reading every move. Then came the second round. A perfectly timed right hand from Crawford sent Spence to the canvas.
Spence, how quickly that changes.
The crowd erupted. Crawford, expressionless, walked to the neutral corner. From that moment on, the fight was a masterclass.
There's a big left by Crawford, backing up Spence.
Crawford's timing, precision, and power were on another level. Every time Spence pressed forward, he was met with counters.
Goes Spence for the second time in the fight.
Sharp, punishing, and relentless. By the seventh round, Spence was bloodied, battered, and struggling to stay upright. Crawford dropped him again, and again.
Down goes Spence for the third time in the fight at the end of the seventh.
The dominance was shocking. This wasn't supposed to happen. Spence was supposed to be Crawford's greatest test. Instead, it looked like a mismatch. In the ninth round, after yet another barrage, the referee stepped in. It was over. Terence Crawford had just stopped Errol Spence Jr. in brutal fashion to become the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. The significance was enormous. Crawford became the first male fighter in the four-belt era to be undisputed in two different weight classes. He was now the undisputed junior welterweight champion and the undisputed welterweight champion, a feat no man had ever accomplished before. Critics silenced, doubters humbled.
Before, the winner out of this fight was going to be #1 pound for pound.
Crawford wasn't just a pound-for-pound great. He was making a case as one of the greatest fighters of all time. In the aftermath, boxing historians scrambled to place Crawford in the pantheon of legends. His skill set, the ability to switch stances seamlessly, his timing, his adaptability, drew comparisons to Sugar Ray Leonard, Pernell Whitaker, and Floyd Mayweather. But Crawford was carving out something unique. He wasn't just beating champion, he was dominating them. Out of his 40 professional wins, nearly 80% had come by knockout. That kind of finishing rate at the elite level was unheard of. And the Spence fight wasn't just a win, it was a statement. It was a fight that erased every narrative about weak opposition, every doubt about his welterweight resume. He hadn't just beaten Spence, he had dismantled him. For many fans and analysts, July 29, 2023, marked the night Terence Crawford officially became the best pound-for-pound boxer alive. A fighter who had risen from the streets of Omaha, survived a gunshot wound to the head, battled through being overlooked and underpaid, and emerged as an undisputed legend. It wasn't just about belts anymore. It was about history, about legacy, about leaving no doubt. From his early dominance at lightweight, to unifying at junior welterweight, to destroying Errol Spence Jr. at welterweight, Terence Crawford's career had become a blueprint for greatness. But even after the Spence fight, one question remained. What's next? Would he chase even bigger challenges? Would he move up again, maybe even test himself against names like Canelo Alvarez? Or would he solidify his legacy by defending his crown against the hungry young lions? When people talk about legacies in boxing, they talk about consistency, about evolving under pressure, and about delivering on the sport's biggest stages. Terence Crawford, from the moment he first stepped into a gym in Omaha, chased that exact kind of legacy, and on September 13th, 2025, he added a chapter that few could have predicted. The fight was one of those nights where the air felt electric, not because of trash talk or theatrics, but because of what was at stake. Crawford stepped up 2 weight classes to challenge Saul Canelo Alvarez for the undisputed super middleweight titles. The fight took place at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on September the 13th, 2025, and after 12 competitive rounds, the judges delivered their verdict. Crawford by unanimous decision.
the fighting pride of Omaha, Nebraska, USA, Payoff!
With scores reading 116 to 112, 115 to 112, 113, and 115 to 113. This was not just another big-name win, it was historic.
And there's the final.
By beating Canelo, one of the most decorated fighters of his generation, and a man with a massive global profile, Crawford became the undisputed super middleweight champion and, in doing so, moved into a very rarefied air. He became the first male boxer in the four-belt era to achieve undisputed champion status in 3 separate weight divisions.
An undisputed super middleweight champion of the world!
That distinction instantly altered how historians and fans would talk about his place in the sport. The night itself unfolded like a chess match between 2 of boxing's best. Early rounds were feeling out rounds, both men probing, testing timing, and looking for openings. Canelo, known for his compact power and tight defense, tried to set a physical, inside rhythm. Crawford, calm and patient as ever, used subtle switches in stance, lateral movement, and timing to frustrate Alvarez and to take away the Mexican champion's preferred angles.
Stood his ground and got his respect from Canelo Alvarez.
As the fight progressed, Crawford's timing and counterpunching started to show more clearly, and his accuracy began to tilt rounds his way. By the middle rounds, he was landing the cleaner shots with more consistency, putting pressure on Canelo's output and forcing the champion to adjust. This wasn't a knockout night, but it was, in its own way, a statement. Crawford controlled crucial stretches, scored meaningful punches, and showed ring generalship at a weight that many wondered he could handle. After the final bell, the judges' cards favored Crawford. A unanimous decision had been reached. The win was decisive enough to remove many of the lingering narratives about style matchups and size, and it elevated Crawford's legacy across eras. What made the result resonate beyond the sport's usual talking points was the setting and the reaction. Allegiant Stadium hosted a reported crowd of roughly 70,000 fans, a massive audience for any boxing event, and millions more watched the bout via the event's global stream. The scale of the stage amplified the achievement. This wasn't a quiet, technical victory in a small arena. Crawford had won the biggest kind of fights on the biggest kind of nights. The post-fight responses were immediate and loud. Analysts re-ranked pound-for-pound lists. Commentators who had once parsed Crawford's resume for flaws now had to recalibrate. Mainstream outlets and longtime boxing writers began placing Crawford at or near the top of the sport. For many observers, the combination of beating Canelo on this stage and the historical weight of his 3-division undisputed achievement pushed Crawford into conversation not just as the best of today, but as one of the all-time greats. From a technical standpoint, the win over Canelo showcased the core strengths that have defined Crawford's career. First, his ability to switch stances seamlessly, moving from orthodox to southpaw and back again, kept Alvarez off balance and created angles Canelo hadn't anticipated. Second, Crawford's timing and counterpunching were elite. Rather than trying to outmuscle Canelo, he defended with crisp movement and punished openings with accurate counters that added up round after round. Finally, his composure under pressure, the quiet, surgical approach that defined his best performances, allowed him to outthink as much as outfight one of boxing's most battle-tested champions. That composure came from decades of grinding. The street fights and the near miss that refocused his life, the long amateur slog, the nights on small undercards, and the willingness to move through weight classes to chase the best in the world. Against Canelo, all of those elements added up into a performance that was equal parts tactical and emotional. Seeing him drop to his knee before the decision was announced, and then weep at the result, that was the human payoff for a lifetime of work. The significance of this victory goes beyond belts and records. It's about the narrative arc. A kid from Omaha who grew up in a hard neighborhood and was once shot becomes a man who defended his humility by letting his boxing do the talking. Each step of his rise lightweight, junior welterweight, welterweight,
Spence might be going down again, and this one is over.
And now super middleweight, has been about testing limits, proving skeptics wrong, and expanding what people believe is possible. With the Canelo win, Crawford didn't just beat a superstar, he rewrote what a career path can look like in modern boxing. Of course, wins this big always lead to questions about what's next. Does Crawford defend at super middleweight and consolidate his hold over the division? Does he chase another cross-division fight? Or does he look to match the historical narratives of those who challenged themselves across multiple weights? There's also the rematch question with fights this close to the top of the sport. A second meeting often makes commercial and competitive sense. Whatever comes, Crawford now sets the terms. He can pick his next challenge from a position of unquestionable strength. But beyond speculation, one thing is clear. September 13th, 2025 will be remembered as the night Terence Crawford added the most luminous jewel yet to his crown. It's a night that boxed tall in boxing history books, not because it was the flashiest finish, but because it was the most meaningful. In the months and years to come, analysts will pull apart every round, every punch, every adjustment. They'll compare stats, replay moments, and argue placement in the GOAT conversation. That's the life of historic fights they keep on giving. For now, the city of Omaha prepared to celebrate. Fans poured out into the streets. Tributes rolled in. And one quiet, focused fighter from Nebraska, who rarely sought the spotlight, stood with some of the most coveted belts in the sport. The victory over Canelo was another confirmation, the kind that lasts, that Terence Crawford had not only reached the top, but that he had done it his way, by outlasting, outlearning, and outworking everyone who stood in front of him.
Did you get what you was looking for?
Terence Crawford's victory on September 13th wasn't just another line on his resume. It was a statement, a declaration that even at 37 years old, he is still evolving, still daring to do what others fear, and still chasing greatness with the same hunger he had as a kid from Omaha. The future now holds many possibilities. A rematch with Canelo Alvarez looms, fueled by pride, money, and unfinished business. Rising stars like Jaron Boots Ennis are knocking at the door,
For the first time in his career!
eager to test themselves against the legend. And of course, there's always speculation about whether Crawford will eventually hang up the gloves, walking away on top, untouched by decline. But here's the truth. Whatever comes next, his legacy is already secure. Crawford is the only male boxer to become undisputed in 3 divisions in the 4-belt era. He is a master technician, a switch hitter who can adapt to any style, a fighter who proves time and again that intelligence, discipline, and sheer willpower can overcome any obstacle. From the streets of Omaha to the lights of Las Vegas to the pinnacle of boxing history, Terence "Bud" Crawford has given the sport something rare, greatness that cannot be denied. And as the crowd chanted his name on that September night, it became clear this isn't just the story of a champion. This is the story of one of the greatest fighters to ever lace up a pair of gloves. Because in boxing today, when you ask who the best pound-for-pound fighter alive is, the answer is simple. It's Terence Crawford.